Hey, welcome back to the channel, everyone. This is Scott from Customize, and today, well, we have another lift kit job and a few other little doodads we're doing to this 2017 Jeep Wrangler Unlimited Sahara. And this thing, honestly, is clean. I mean, we're up here in Maine, and the underside of this thing is like impressively clean. As part of the lift kit and everything else we're going to be doing today, we're going to finish up after we're done messing with all the chassis, is an oil undercoating job as well. But let me show you what we got. So, yes, we are a rough country dealer. We do a ton with the rough country stuff. And we can get you what you need. We can also get you the TerraFlex and some other brands as well. So this here, the customer opted, they were very specific. They wanted a 2.5-inch TerraFlex full suspension kit. Comes with all the bracketry you need. Sway bar links. I think they're sway bar relocation brackets, I believe. Bump stops, new coils, new shocks all the way around, a few brackets, and of course decals and instructions, as well as this rough country, I think they call it a tailgate table. I think it's actually for the Ford Bronco, but it work on anything. So he started putting it on. It kind of got out of his wheelhouse a little bit as far as the nut certs go. So we're going to go ahead and see how he did on that and then finish installing this as well for him and finish up with an oil undercoating. We probably won't do the video on the oil undercoating, so to speak, because I do those separately. But this is a kit. And to be honest with you, we do a ton with rough country, and I've been impressed with their quality. This is the first TerraFlex lift that we've installed here at the shop, and I'm going to tell you, I'm impressed with their quality. Very impressed. Price point is a fair amount higher than rough country. It's around $1,000, give or take, for this kit here. And there's different variations of this kit as well. But in a nutshell, I'm going to go ahead and get started, get this thing tore apart. I didn't have a before video in this format. I somehow forgot to do that. I already, I was excited, brought it inside, took the wheels and tires off. It has oversized 285/70/18 tires and aftermarket wheels on it. I did have this picture and I think a little walk around with the camera in a different direction. So I'll post that right here. But in the meantime, we'll probably start on the front here with the shocks and dropping the coil and sway bar links. I got to refresh myself in the directions. I know the rough country stuff. Jeeps are pretty straightforward. Curious to see how it rides after as well as compared to a rough country equivalent lift. All right, guys, slight update. The directions are, well, honestly, not that great. I'll be honest with you, TerraFlex. They break it down so, like, if you bought just the bump stops, there's instructions for those. Just the coils, instructions for those. Just the shocks, and then they don't put it together like you bought the kit, like we did buy the kit. So you keep jumping back and forth, and it appears we're missing some parts on here, from what I can tell. So that's not cool either. I got a call into TerraFlex. I couldn't get to an actual human being. I will say that, and I'm not just talking rough country, but every time I call them, I get a person, and they are spot on. It doesn't talk about this at all. Matter of fact, the picture of a track bar reload. I think this is for the track bar. The track bar relocation bracket they talk about is very small, and it doesn't look like that at all. So I don't know if they sent the wrong directions. I'm not sure. I'm waiting for a call from them. But in the meantime, I'm going to move forward with, assuming we're going to keep going with this, disconnecting the front sway bar links, taking the shocks out, and then we're gonna loosen the upper and lower control arms here. And we're not taking them out. We're just loosening them. What that's going to do is going to allow, once your lift kit is in and this thing to find its new home, then you'll tighten them with the weight of the vehicle on the ground with the new lift in it. It's like one of the last things you do. So remember that if you're loosening them. But anyway, we'll take the shocks out. Then we're going to lower it down, pull the coil out. Again, not a direct how-to, but give you the basics of it. And I believe we'll have to drill a hole in the center of this and put a bump stop extension on here. I think, maybe not. There's also one that goes in here. This thing is missing the factory bump stops. So obviously we got to replace those. I called up the local Chrysler dealer because we can't find them aftermarket. They have 2 in stock, so we will grab those as well so we can put that in. I do know this. So I don't think we're putting a extension on the bottom. I think it's this piece here that goes into here, and then you put the factory bump stop into this. I think that's what you do. But directions don't really talk about it. All right, here we are under the Jeep. So the upper control arm, it's an 18, I believe, and the lower is a 21. So we're going to go ahead and loosen up the uppers and lowers. So when we when we lower this, the reason being is that bushing is going to want to twist if you left it tightened. So it won't do that. So this whole thing's going to be sitting 2.5 inches lower, so you want it to ride comfortably in its new home. All right. On this next step, and this applies to pretty much any lift kit you're doing on the Jeeps. They're pretty much all done the same way as far as the coils and shocks go anyway. I don't even know if this thing's gonna relocate the track bar at this point until we get to talk to somebody. But what we did on this step here is we put this thing on jack stands. We loosened the control arms like we said, so they're relaxed. I loosened the hardware on the shock, but I didn't go ahead and try to remove that shock with the weight hanging because this axle would just want to swing down. Because at that point, that's essentially what's holding you together along with your track bar. So what we're gonna do now that the weight is off, we'll take the hardware out of the shock, we'll raise the vehicle up off the jack stands, and that's gonna loosen this coil so you can literally take it right out of here. So let me get the hardware off the shock. All right, I talked to TerraFlex, I got in touch with a human, and it comes with new rear sway bar links. What you're gonna use, and it does not mention this at all, at least in the directions they sent me, the front sway bar links go away completely. The ones existing on the rear, so you're gonna make sure those are good, and this one, they are good. You're gonna take the ones off the rear, which are longer than the factory ones on the front. You're gonna take the rear ones, put them on the front. These are the new rear ones. And then this indeed is a track bar relocator for the rear. The front, there's nothing. It's weird. No directions for this at all. So he's emailing me this right now. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna move ahead with, like I said, taking the coils off, taking the shocks off, lowering it down, unbolting our sway bar link here. We're gonna steal the one off the rear to put it on the front, and we get rolling. All right, shocks out of there. Clearly they were like brand new, I don't know if you just got this Jeep or you had the shocks changed recently, but man. What we're gonna do before we go ahead and lift this Jeep is this brake line bracket right here. She's gonna get tight, especially trying to get that coil in there. So a 10mm bolt here, we'll take this bracket off. It's gonna allow like a ton of play so this thing can really drop down, and the ABS wire follows it as well. All right, we're in the air now. We're off the jack stand. As you can see, she's pretty loose. You just basically push down on this. I can't do it with one hand. A little bit, so we have plenty of room in our lines here. And then you just pop this out of here, which, I guess I can kind of do it one-handed. Kind of, be right back with you. So now it's time for the bump stop extension. What it does is we got the factory ones coming that we're waiting on. So we got to wait for those to put the coil in. This slides in the factory location where it used to be. They just rotted off and got yick. So make sure that's clean in there. Nothing goes on the bottom here. So we're going to put this in, factory bump stop, then the new coil spring, then lower it back down. We're waiting for those to come in. We will probably swap out the links from the rear to the front. So those are ready to go. All right, just a slight heads up. The upper bump stop extension, it doesn't just pop in there. It is a pain to get in. So we took our jack extension, put it between the spring base in here, and then lowered the vehicle and used the weight of the vehicle to push it in. Some grease up in here helps as well. We put a little bit of grease in there. And then our factory isolator will go in there, which will make putting the coil in a challenge, but we'll get it. All right, whew. I'm glad I had that jack extension because that was impossible. Bye. All right, here is a factory rear one, which is in good condition. It actually came right out compared to the front. So as you can see, it does take care of that lift kit by just extending that front sway bar link. And then obviously the new rear ones are even longer than the factory ones. So that actually is pretty slick. It'd be nice if they actually mentioned that. So that's just literally gonna go back in the same spot here. So we'll put the nut on. We won't connect this until our coil and all that stuff's in. All right, so we got the front as far as I can take it because I'm waiting on the bump stops. My son has actually gone out to pick those up. And we got the the rear sway bar links now on the front. We're gonna jump over to the rear and start getting into this rear. So we've already got the rear sway bar links disconnected. We're gonna undo the track bar, same thing. Shocks are gonna come out. We're gonna lower this down, take out the coils. We're gonna disconnect this brake line bracket, both sides, and then there's one in the center as well. And as well as loosening up our rear trailing arm so we'll allow this thing to settle and find its new home. So I'm gonna go ahead and start tearing at this or taking it apart. So then when he gets here, we'll button the front back up. So sorry, I apologize, a little back and forth. And then the bumper, basically with that, it's a direct replacement. We were gonna strip this, blast it, and repowder coat it for him because it's starting to scale heavy on the inside. And he found a replacement, it's the exact same bumper online someplace. I'm not sure. It might have been Amazon, to be honest with you. And with no lights in it. So we're just doing a 1-for-1 swap for him at the same time. All right, this is the center bracket they refer to. And this is the only thing that is a little crusty. It's not horrible, though. But I think we might be able to just fish these, just the emergency brake support. Maybe we'll just monitor it and see if we even have to deal with it. And or maybe just fish them out of here because they just snap in there and put them back in after instead of, I don't want to break those fasteners. All right, so the rear shocks are older than the front, so those can go bye-bye. And that coil can come right out of there. We're gonna reuse that factory isolator. So the only thing I didn't undo was, sorry, my finger was in the way. I didn't undo was the track bar bolt here. We will do that next, but I want to support the axle first. And it looks like we do have plenty of slack in our emergency brake cables not to mess with those. So almost got the rear toe apart. And you don't even really need tools with some of these Jeep springs. You get the spring in there like that, and you just fight it like that with one hand while you're trying to record, and you win. All right, update track bar bracket. Disconnect the track bar right here in the rear. We're in the rear of the Jeep now. Take this bolt out. Take your lower control, lower trailing arm bolt completely out because you're gonna reuse that. I believe there's a spacer that goes in here. Let me kind of show you where it goes, I believe. So I did, like I said, I spoke to somebody and they emailed me the directions, and essentially I can show you now, which would have been a total guessing game before. It's gonna go like this. So with this, I gotta take this track bar out of here. But essentially that hole is gonna line up and go through that hole. Let me put my finger here. This is gonna go through here. We're gonna reuse that hardware. This is gonna drop down to here. There's a spacer that goes between here. And then the track bar, it's gonna go in one of these holes. I don't know which, I gotta read the directions. Then there's a U-bolt that goes on here and clamps around the axle. So fairly straightforward, but without directions, that was kind of a guessing game. All right, before I go ahead and put that bracket, swing it up into place, I'm gonna go ahead and throw that coil in there. The new coil spring for the lift kit, reusing the upper isolator. And then one thing it does mention, and I can kind of mention this again, is the pigtail. So the end of the spring is gonna go to the rear of the vehicle. It does mention that in directions. I remember reading that. All right, in case you're wondering, that's how it looks when it's installed. Everything is in here loose, finger tight. There is torque specs on everything. Basically, it takes that factory track bar and brings it from down here to up here, which is gonna keep that, the rear axle in the center line of the vehicle instead of pulling it hard to one side. And it has a spacer in there as well. It'll keep you from crushing this when you torque this down. We have our new coil in there loosely. We're gonna go ahead and throw the other coil in there. You don't touch the track bar on this side. And then it shocks, bring it back up, sway bar links, and we're gonna put some bump stops right here. It comes with a couple bolts and extensions to add these on, but we'll lower it to do those. But yeah, I'll get the rest of the rear installed here. And the spring is actually quite easy. You just, barely any prying and boop, pop it in there. Remember, you're gonna reuse your factory isolator as well, which is right here. Just rubber, make sure that's in good shape too. All right, on the sway bar links, the new ones, you're gonna reuse the old hardware on the new links, except for the top. It comes with a new nut there. So those can get put in and tightened down. Do it before you do your shocks, because you get nice access with an impact gun there to tighten it down versus doing it by hand. We'll get this thing, like I said, set on the ground, everything tightened up, or like this with the weight of the vehicle on it, so we can tighten stuff down. All right, and I might have said it earlier in the video, and I'll probably say it again, but as you're tightening stuff, go ahead and mark the fastener or the nut, whatever it is you're tightening, down to its resting place. So you know, one, you tightened it, and then it's a telltale sign if you ever have anything come up loose on you or starting to loose. It's just a visual cue there. So we go ahead and mark everything as we go. All right, so shocks are in here loose. It's the two 16mm bolt heads up here. And it's just a through bolt down here. You're using the factory hardware. The front comes with new bushings and stuff for the top. But that's pretty sexy looking shock. I did get the track bar bracket all bolted in, torqued down. So that is good, as well as the sway bar links. And then the final thing to do is just, obviously, when this thing's on the ground, we're tighten up the rear trailing arms as well. But we're just checking things over. We're gonna add the brake line extensions next, so we'll do that. I'm still waiting on the front bump stops, and there's plenty of room here on these. So let me get this thing lowered down a little bit. All right, As far as the rear brake line extension, honestly, I don't think it's necessary. But anyway, I think it goes like this. It bolts here to the factory location, and then that's going to slide in there like so with a through bolt and the nut. So basically like that. And then one other thing I forgot is there's a coil spring retainer. So there's a washer that goes on here and then a nut right here. So it gives you a special little wrench to get in there as well. So we're going to put those on as well. Factory, you don't have that, but must be because you're off-roading, articulating, and stuff like that. So let me throw this stuff on. All right, so the brake line bracket looks like that. And basically want to make sure that you don't have any rubbing or chafing on the frame here. Make sure you have some clearance around here. And then as far as the lower spring retainer, kind of get to finagle your finger in there to get that through. And then their specialty wrench kind of goes into the bottom here and holds that nut in place. So it's actually not that bad. I'll give you that much. Their hardware is, I think, better than Rough Country's as far as their hardware goes. I do like that better. Your directions still suck. All right, so I went back and I messed this up. How I was going to leave that emergency brake bracket in the middle, because there's still enough play on these, but it brings them close to the coil springs on the emergency brake cables. But you actually do remove those two bolts. It's not a big deal if they break, because you remove and discard. Like, you don't use it again. So we can go ahead and take that out. The center bracket holding the emergency brake cables in place. But anyway, the lower bump stop, basically, there's two holes here, factory holes. It just sets on there. Boom, through bolts. And then your bump stop, your factory bump stop will come in contact with that now a little bit sooner. I say sooner, but the vehicle's sitting higher, so the relation is still the same. All right, the factory bump stops have shown up. My son picked them up, so we can go ahead and slide those in and get back on the front. Right after we go ahead and tighten these lower bump stops down. Basically, you're gonna need two wrenches to do it. One top, one bottom, because kind of a pain to get through. Well, you can use the socket on this one. The front one definitely wrenches. All right, front bump stop went in way easier than the extension went in, so that just pops in there with a little bit of grease. All right, now that we essentially got the rear buttoned up, we're back on the front. Like I said, we just slid in the factory bump stops that we had to pick up because this was missing. It's pretty common. They deteriorate, fall apart, and whatever. So that's the only thing that extends the bump stop right here. So we can go ahead and put the coils in now. Remember, the rear sway bar links are now on the front, so that helps us extend that area of play. So basically it's going to work like it should from the factory, just now it's got longer sway bar links. It's kind of creative how they did that. They didn't do anything with the track bar in the front, which is a little concerning, but I'm surprised because the rear they definitely did. But we can slide the coil in there, and then we can go ahead and put our shock in there, lower it down to allow us to get the shock in there, and then we'll re-bolt our brake line back up, and then the sway bar link, that's it. The front is actually a lot less parts than the rear. All right, so this I know I can't just pop in there one-handed, so I'm gonna have to put you down here and probably pull down on this side of the axle, get a little bit of a pry bar, and snake that baby in there and around the bump stop, which makes it a little bit more of a challenge, but give me a second, I'll be right back with you. I don't know if you caught that, but that coil right there just now was upside down, so I would have figured it out, but did you get it? Oh, and this is a great time to hit that like and subscribe. I don't want to harp, but I am going to harp because it does make a big difference to us little channels. If you folks get on there and hit that like and subscribe, and you want to follow along, see what the next build is, or what lift kits we're doing, what powder coating we're doing, what we're giving away, you name it. It's just good to follow along with our content, and we appreciate all of you for that. All right, not quite as easy as the rear, but I got this side in. However, I can't get the other side in because it's a little harder to pry with the track bar connected there. I may have to disconnect it. I'm not sure. But I might get my son down here to help me pry and pop that baby in there. I mean, there's multiple ways I can do it. I can compress the spring a little bit with a spring compressor, but I'm just trying to make it easy. All right, sides in. Actually took a little prying and make sure your track bar on the passenger side is at the axle end is at least disconnected. That'll help you as well. I mean, you could do it if you had a coil spring compressor as well, but whew, we got it. Let's get the shocks in there. All right, once the front shock is in and your coil's in, and you want to go ahead and put your track bar bolt back in because they didn't do anything. It's not an adjustable track bar. Sometimes the hole is not going to line up perfectly. So you got to put the weight of the vehicle on, like on the jack stands or the tires on so it's on the ground, because that'll help you get it lined up. So you need the weight of the vehicle on it. If that doesn't work and you got an alignment bar in there and you can't get it, put a little bit of a ratchet strap on there, especially if you're doing it by yourself, and pull the axle this way So that end over there is tied to the frame, and this end's pulling on the axle. And it was off about 1/4 inch, so we had to pull it that way. So a good upgrade for him would be an adjustable track bar next. That's why I'm a little surprised they didn't do anything in this kit for that, like some type of relocation bracket, a little bit of one at least. But I mean, they do their homework, they do their engineering, so I'd say upgrade would be an adjustable track bar. That'd be next. Now remember, if you have the weight of the vehicle on the jack stands, or if you have the tires on, so same thing, you have the weight of the vehicle on the suspension. It's a good time to tighten up the excuse me, the trailing arms here, the hardware. So you got one down here and one up there. It's a good time to tighten those up with the weight of the vehicle on that, because the tires aren't on this thing, so they're not in my way, but yet it is carrying the weight on the jack stand that's kind of tipping. But anyway, we get those tightened up, lower shocks tightened up. We're gonna go ahead and connect the sway bar links, and the front end is just about done. All right, guys, the lift is now in. So that'll bring us to this portion of the video where the lift kit, the TerraFlex 2.5-inch lift kit, is ending. Overall, the quality of the kit is spot on. Like, their hardware and their components are really good. I'm impressed with it. The directions I'm not, and I guess part of that's user error. I take some of the blame for that because I have not done a TerraFlex lift in a very long time. Because typically we are doing a rough country, and we're happy with their stuff. But with that being said, this kit, we had to go back and forth with the manufacturer a few times and get the correct email for the rear sway bar bracket, if you remember right. But the front is pretty straightforward. Again, wasn't mentioned, at least in the directions we had, but you're taking the rear sway bar end links off and putting them on the front, where the new ones go onto the rear here. Remember, and this gets the whole track bar relocation bracket is in the rear. The front, a good upgrade to do to this would be a track bar relocation and/or an adjustable track bar, and primarily an adjustable track bar would be better. There's one adjustment we'll have to do. Remember, you got to put the weight of the vehicle down on this, on jack stands or the tires, and tighten those trailing arms up. Remember that. Is the alignment is something they're going to want to do as well at the end of all this. And one thing you can do right here at the shop and take a reference is take it for a ride. Your steering wheel is going to be off a little bit. You can fix that real easy right here with this sleeve. I don't know if you can see that. This sleeve right here. So 2 bolts on this side here, or the other side you can't see with the camera, and you can turn the sleeve in or out. I've had it soaking. So we will, in fact, do that for the customer. So we'll get the least steering wheel pretty close to straight, so make one less thing or a little easier for the alignment shop. But now we'll switch gears, and we're going to go into that bumper and get the old bumper off, which is just undoing the hardware. He doesn't have lights in the new bumper. It's pretty straightforward. It's probably heavy, so I got my little lift assist over there. Probably use that job right there because of my back. So I'm going to clean up from the lift kit, and then we'll switch gears. All right, this is what we got going on in the back. Is this bumper is like peeling and scaling pretty bad. As you can see, from the outside, it didn't look bad, but underneath here, it's pretty bad. It's basically held on with 2 bolts here, from what I can tell. 4 through bolts down the middle here. It looks like a 3/4 inch. And like I said, 2 more bolts on here, and I think it'll come off. As far as the wiring of those lights go, yeah, I got to figure that out, where they're tying in. Because it's just zip ties here. And obviously, we're going to have to disconnect that because he's no longer going to have those in his new. We'll probably stub up the wirings in case he needs to add or wants to add auxiliary lights another day. But the reason why we're doing this is because, well, like I said, it's scaled up pretty good. And we were going to remove it, blast it, and because we do powder coating here, and re-powder coat this thing and put it back on for him. But honestly, he found one someplace online here for the money of this new bumper. It would have been about what he was into for the powder coating of this one. Now, what that'll look in a few years, I'm not sure. Time will tell. But in the meantime, I'm gonna get these zip ties cut, take a look at our wiring, and get a 3/4 inch wrench and socket and start with our center bolts. I can only assume they're gonna wanna keep the blue shackles that match the blue Jeep. So we'll take these off too. All right, other Jeeps, I would have expected this like to not come out or break, and this thing is pretty good that way. Like, it starts getting fasteners out. I mean, underneath here, it's not bad. We're gonna oil undercoat it, but this thing's clean. All right, so we have our super handy lift here, and just a manual crank. It works great for putting bumpers on and stuff when you're a one-man show. So we'll just go ahead and lower the Jeep down a little bit lower, and we'll get this thing staged up, probably open this tailgate, get it out of the way. the tire out of the way so we can go ahead and actually put some pressure on this bumper and get this thing out of here. I don't think it's crazy heavy, but we're not risking it. All right, how it works, you just basically crank it up and you can actually secure it in place too. It's got a slight lean back to it, but it works pretty darn good. We're just going up underneath, apparently, the muffler right now. So the bumper, take a little weight off it. So we can go ahead and get these bolts off the side here and then be able to slide it up onto this. All right, as compared to manhandling this thing yourself, literally got the bolts out and I'm gonna just slide it onto this thing. That's it, she's off. Boom. We'll set up for a new one and slide it on. I dare say, at least from the backside, it's pretty much the same thing. These things here slide right in the frame, and then you access the bolts through the side here, and that's your side bolts, and then the 4 bolts in the center, and it takes care of your Reese hitch. So it's gonna mount the same. Once I get it out of the box, I'll at least know if it looks the same. All right, I have a couple bags of hardware. Based on how the other one was installed, this is a Barricade bumper, apparently. I would say it's gonna go on the same way. See how handy this lift is? It is a back saver. So now essentially we're gonna line up. It's just gonna go in a little bit further. So this hole is gonna go here with a bolt and there with a bolt. And then we get our 4 bolts in the middle, and that's pretty much it. All right, I got our 4 side bolts in, just finger tight. I'm gonna go ahead and raise the lift now, and then go ahead and get our center bolt stabbed, and then we can get this thing squared up and tightened down. All right, I got the center bolt snugged down. Before I tighten the side bolts, I'm gonna lower this down, shut the gate, and see how we are level and square and plumb. All right, so fit and finish isn't bad. It's a little looser on this corner than it is that corner, but I can't even tighten it because it's hard against the frame over here. It's hard against the frame on the other side, so it doesn't move back. You literally can't shift it back and forth either way. So that's kind of where it's gonna be. And it is level and it looks good. It does sit exactly where the other one sat. It clears the big old tire. So I'll tighten her down. All right, the reverse wire, yeah, he had that tapped into the reverse wire. I'm just gonna bundle it up, tape it off, and zip tie it up here out of the way in case he decides he wants to add some auxiliary lights or he misses his reverse lights and we wanna put something else on it. And then I'm gonna add those blue shackles back on because I can only assume he wants those back on. All right, she's all on there. We'll get a better picture when everything's done and we get it outside. And just like this front suspension, we went ahead and marked our fasteners as we tightened them up. All right, now that the bumper's on, we're gonna switch to the next phase of the video, and that is to install this rough country, I think it was for a Bronco, but it doesn't really matter. Essentially anything for a tailgate that folds out. Basically gets mechanically bolted or nut certed in there, and he started putting it in, and I don't think it went that well. Let me show you. All right, so I guess it was a template or something it came with. And you got the nut certs in there, but they're not like inserted. I don't know if you didn't have the tool or it didn't work out or whatever. And it looks like, I don't know what went on there. We need another hole maybe. Got to finish that hole. But anyway, I'm going to go grab that and see how it does line up and if we can just use those nut certs. I have a nut cert tool. So it basically, how these things work, let me just grab one to show you. It pulls it in there just like a rivet. And that's exactly how they go in there. It's like a rivet. I'll show you when I install it. All right, from reading the directions on the Jeep install, at least, it looks like you use the upper and the mid on this side because you can't use the lower. And on this side, you don't use the upper. You use the upper, which you didn't finish. So we need 11/30 seconds drill and the lower and not the mid. So we didn't really need that one. At least that's what those directions are saying. So let me grab a drill bit. Can't talk. Drill bit? The hell's a drill bit? Anyway, be right with you. All right, hopefully he didn't make the hole too egged out here. We're going to finish drilling this one. And then we'll go ahead and insert it. All right, so I just installed that one. So that one's in and done. Let me show you this one. So basically you got it on there. You screwed it all the way on as far as it'll go. Push this in until it bottoms out. Now you just drilled that hole. Now the hole is size appropriate. Now you're going to squeeze. Let me try to do this. Stand by. Sorry. Squeeze both the handles like so. Then I'm going to loosen it back up and I'm going to tighten this down now that we pulled it in some. And I'm going to repeat that a couple times so we get this thing completely as tight as it'll go. And then that one's in. All right, we got our nut certs all in there, riveted down. Call them nut studs, rivets, whatever you want to call it. Works the same way. Then we get the fasteners, and two of them, I believe the top two, have snubbers on them. So it gives it something to hit against once you latch it in place. So I'm going to go ahead and, not one-handed, but hold this up, put my fasteners in, get them started, and I'll show you what it looks like. All right, there it is. She is installed. His holes were off a touch, so I will say that, at the mercy of that. And because of that, I actually had to tweak this arm out a little bit in order for this bolt to clear when he folds it up. But that's basically what it is. So he now has a little workbench, tabletop, whatever you want to use it for. It's pretty rugged. The nut certs hold up really well. I wouldn't go sitting on it. That'd be a big mistake for somebody, but all in all, that's pretty cool. All right, customer also has, I assume, I don't know where this is going to go. He got a power port he wanted me to go ahead and wire in there for him. So I'm going to go ahead and throw that in, but I assume that there's a place for it. I got to check that out because he's not, I don't know. I got to figure out what he wants to do. You're making a hole for it or what? All right, here we go. We're inside. It looks like he attempted to take this off, but I think we're replacing the cigarette lighter right here with the power port. So he'll be able to plug in his USBs and stuff, which is cool. So basically, I believe on these models, you have to pop this off as an assembly, or the top comes off first, then the bottom. And this shifter's probably in the way as well. So we'll get this popped off, and we'll throw that other one on there. All right, it just snaps out of the vehicle. We unplugged everything, including the cigarette lighter. We'll probably have to, it probably has 2 grounds on it. I'm going to go ahead and get that out of there. We may have to enlarge the hole some for this, what he got to fit in there. I don't think it'll be a problem. Everything looks pretty straightforward. So let me go ahead and get that out of there. This piece right here, it's just plastic. It looks like it snaps in. So we'll get it out of there. All right, it does indeed just snap out of there. You take the center out, then the outer piece comes out. So the factory one's out of there. And this one is super close. You can almost thread it in by itself. But so we're just going to lightly massage around the opening of this hole, make it a little bit bigger so it'll slide in, and it just has a lock nut that holds it in the back. Then we'll have to change the plug, the factory plug, over to a couple pin connections for our power and ground on this, and it's good to go. All right, check that out. It looks factory. And if they wanted to go back to the other one, they still could, because I barely had to open that hole up. And now he's got 2 USB ports. I know they make little ones that you can plug into that, but he wanted a dedicated spot for that. It just tightens up on the back there. We just got to change a couple electrical connectors. This baby's done. All right, a couple new connectors. We'll just verify positive and ground, get this thing put back together. All right, no power on either wire, and upon troubleshooting, we found a bad 20 amp fuse to his power outlet. That is tied to something else as well, but I'm sure it is nothing more than whether he was messing around with it, whatever, I don't know, but oh, we still got no power. Stand by. Let me make sure I get power. Yes, okay. All right, got it. Just a blown fuse. Just a blown fuse. I thought it was the rain sensor because that goes bad on these things, but everything's good. Thank God. All right, I believe we hit all of our checkpoints aside from oil undercoating on this 2017 Jeep Wrangler here for the customer. So it was the TerraFlex 2.5-inch lift kit. We went ahead and replaced the rear bumper for them. And then we did the rough country tailgate little table jobby, and then a power outlet from the cigarette lighter. And all that's left now is to oil undercoat this thing. We're rotating the tires for them as well. And then we're going to, like I said, we're likely going to have to adjust this sleeve here to straighten the steering wheel out until they get in alignment. But yeah, I'm going to go ahead and get this thing oil undercoated. I'm not going to take you through all the steps of that. Kind of show you a picture of what it looks like afterwards. Obviously, we'll wipe up the shocks and stuff because some overspray will get on them. All right, now that all that stuff is done, while the wheels and the tires are off, we're going to go ahead and blow off and oil undercoat all these voids in here while it's on this lift in the shop. But we do oil undercoating outside. This is the product we use. It's New Hampshire Oil Undercoating's black with mouse out, which is huge up here in New England because, one, prevents rust and soaks into any existing rust and anything you do have. 2, it keeps out the rodents, which is also huge. So I'm going to go ahead and blow this down and get the oil undercoating of the fender wells done while it's sitting here on the lift. Then we'll put the wheels and tires on, get it outside on our outside lift, and oil undercoat the whole thing. All right, yes, of course, we're going to protect the brandy new shocks from the oil. But, yeah, we can wipe off the rest. All right, fender wells are all oil undercoated. We went in the frame, in all the voids, and then obviously an overspray and avoided the nice new shocks. Although in time, you're probably gonna wanna oil undercoat those because like everything else up here in New England, it rusts. So I'm gonna go ahead and slap the wheels and tires on this thing because as you can see, the oil residue gets everywhere. We do powder coating, so that doesn't really mix with what we do. We get the exhaust fan going, which helps. But I'm gonna put these back on, roll this thing out onto our outside list, finish the oil undercoating. I'll kind of give you an overview of what that looks like when we're done, and then we'll do a walk around. All right, first look, just torque the wheels. We'll do a full walk around at the end here, but definitely looks better compared to that little video I had at the beginning. Definitely more aggressive look for it as well. So yeah, let's finish the oil undercoating and we'll do a final walk around. All right, guys, I'm gonna kind of give you a walkthrough of what the vehicle looks like after you've oil undercoated it. Now, with oil undercoating it, this is one of the guns we use here. It's a Lemmer, I think 460. It's a high pressure pot spray gun. This is the workhorse right here, but I have the inside the frame ones. I got the overspray ones. I got everything. So we basically start, we go inside the frame, we go outside the frame, we go all over the place. And as you saw from in the shop, we start with the wheels off and work our way in. Inside the door panels, the rockers, everywhere. So this is what it looks like when you're done. And yes, it is an oily vehicle to work on. So it is what it is. And what it is, it solidifies a little bit. It'll keep moving, it'll keep creeping because that's what oil does. And yeah, when you work on them, you do get messy, but you know what? They don't rust out and they last. And it actually looks absolutely killer. So I'll get it on the ground. We'll get a walk around of this thing, what we did to it, what it looks like. And of course, in the meantime, hit that like and subscribe. It'd be awesome. I really appreciate it. No, I really do. All right, so far, super impressed with the lift. It's got a good, comfortable ride. It's firm, it's agile. It doesn't have a lot of body roll in it. These tires, woo, they are loud. They hadn't been rotated in a very long time, so the front ones were cupped terrible, and now they're on the back. So you're gonna hear them until they wear in for a while. But all in all, this thing, it works really well. It handles really well. I'm giving it a thumbs up. All right, guys, here it is. All right, that 2.5-inch TerraFlex lift definitely gave this thing a new aggressive look. It is freaking badass looking. And honestly, I'm digging this color too. Totally. Fresh oil undercoating, 2.5-inch suspension lift. Now, we still got to test drive it and adjust the turnbuckle, like I said, if we want to center the steering wheel up a little bit and get that thing a little closer for them. So walk around, like I said, it looks real good. It gives it a nice aggressive stance. Before these tires, as that's a big tire, was stuffed right up in there. Now it has just a nice aggressive look. It's not too much. It can still be a daily. Then you got the Rough Country table tray we put on here. I call it table tray, but fold out table. You can pack that away nicely. And the brand new bumper the customer supplied, we took off the old and replaced it with the Barricade bumper, which is pretty cool, as well as a new power outlet inside that ended up having a bad fuse. So I'm kind of glad we were able to figure that out for him as well. So I think that'll bring us to the end of the video here, guys. It was another lift kit video. Usually it's a lot of Rough Country stuff. Today was TerraFlex. The quality is spot on as far as the material goes and the workmanship goes. The directions, and I know I mentioned this a whole bunch, was like, we did what we needed. We did get what we needed, and we got in touch with TerraFlex, and they emailed me the right directions and everything. So that was good. And then some other upgrades with the Rough Country fold-out table, as well as the Barricade bumper. So this was a fun one. Drop a comment. Let me know what you want to see next time. Keep watching, keep subscribing, keep sharing. It helps a lot. Take care, guys. Scott, Customized.